Welcome back to Treasures from the Purans, a treasure chest of fascinating stories from the Puran genre of Indian literature. The sages gathered in the Naimish forest said to Sage Suta, "O highly intelligent one, your words sound wonderful, but you have not told us about the original events in detail. We are very eager to know about the birth of Ved Vyas." Suta said, "Salutations to the highest primordial force. Bowing before her, I will now tell you the story of the birth of Ved Vyas. A long time ago, King Uparichar ruled over the kingdom of Chedi. He was a pious king. So benevolent was he that Indra, the king of the Devatas, gifted him a celestial vehicle made of crystal, which could travel through air. Tenarudhastu sarvatra yati divyena bhupatihi na bhumavu paristoso teno paricharo vasuh vikhyatah sarvalokeshu dharmanityah sa bhupatih tasya bharyavararoha girikanam sundari." The king loved traveling in it across not just earth, but other worlds too. In fact, he was airborne so often that he came to be known as Uparichar Vasu, since he was like the Vasus in higher regions. King Uparichar had a beautiful wife named Girika and 5 strapping sons who ruled over their own kingdoms. One day, Queen Girika came to her husband and expressed her desire to have another child. "It is the right time of the month," she said. The king was in a dilemma, since that day his departed ancestors also requested him to go on a hunt in start of preparations for ceremonies in their memory. He decided to obey the instructions of his ancestors and went off on the hunt. But even while in the forest, his thoughts were with his lovely wife back home, and just the thought of her made him ejaculate. Remembering his wife's words, he quickly saved his semen on a banyan leaf, folded it, securing it with a sacred chant or mantra, and called out to a falcon nearby. "O beautiful one," he said, "please take this to my palace quickly and give it to my queen Girika." Taking the folded leaf from the king's hand, the falcon quickly rose up in the air and headed towards the royal palace. He had barely begun his journey when he was spotted by another falcon, who mistook the folded leaf for a piece of flesh and pounced upon it. A beaky battle ensued mid-air, ending in the leaf with the king's semen falling down into the waters of the river Yamuna below, where another drama was unfolding. A sage was performing his evening prayers standing waist deep in the river waters when Adrika, a celestial nymph, came to bathe there, and frolicking around underwater, playfully caught hold of the sage's feet. The sage was not amused at all and cursed her, saying, "As you have interrupted my meditation by frolicking in the water, may you turn into a fish." Adrika immediately turned into a fish. As the banyan leaf fell from the falcon's beak, Adrika quickly came to the surface of the water and swallowed it. So, instead of the queen, it was a fish that became pregnant. 10 months passed, and then, one day, Adrika was caught in a fisherman's net. When the fisherman cut open the fish's belly, a girl and a boy emerged from it. The surprised fisherman took them to the king Uparichar. The king decided to adopt the boy, and the fisherman adopted the girl. The boy was called Matsyaraj. Mats is the Sanskrit word for fish. He grew up to be a powerful, truthful, and pious lad like his father. The girl, brought up by the fisherman, was named Matsyodari, or one born from a fish's belly. Since her body always had a distinct odor of fish, she later came to be called Matsyagandha, or one who smells of fish. At this point in the story, the sages gathered in the forest interjected. "What happened to Adrika, the celestial nymph?" they asked. "Was she ever able to return to heaven?" Suta replied, "When the sage cursed Adrika, she was very distressed and started weeping. Seeing her crying, the sage said, 'Please don't weep. You will be free of your curse when you give birth to 2 human children.' So, after the 2 children were born," Suta continued, "Adrika was freed of her curse. She assumed her divine form once again and went back to heaven." As the fisherman's daughter, Matsyagandha grew up to be a charming young woman. Ekada tirth yatrayam vrajan parasharo munihi ajgam mahatejah kalindyastatmuttamam nishadamah dharmatma kurvantam bhojanam tada prapayasva paramparam kalindya uddapenamam. One day, Sage Parashar arrived on the banks of the Yamuna and requested Matsyagandha's fisherman father to take him across the river. Since he was eating at that time, the fisherman told Matsyagandha to do the needful. So Sage Parashar boarded the boat, and the lovely Matsyagandha started rowing him across. Parashar was struck by Matsyagandha's beauty, and, as if in a trance, he reached out and caught her left wrist. The doe-eyed Matsyagandha smiled and said, "O knower of Dharma, you have studied the scriptures and done intense penance. You come from the lineage of sage Vashisht and live a disciplined life. Is this desire of yours in accordance with it all?" Parashar stared at her, spellbound. Matsyagandha thought, "This sage has certainly lost his wits, and it seems no one can reason with him right now." "O highly fortunate one," she said aloud, "let me take you to the other side of the river first." At this, Parashar let go of her hand. As they neared a small island before reaching the opposite bank of the river, Matsyagandha said, "You are the best of men as far as family, goodness, and learning is concerned. Why then are you enamored of me, whose body smells so strongly of fish?" "That is easily taken care of," said the learned sage. And with the powers acquired through intense penance over several years, he made the odor of fish emanating from Matsyagandha's body disappear completely. In its place was now an intoxicating, musky fragrance which could be smelt from 1 yojan or 8 miles away. Parashar reached out and held her hand again. Matsyagandha lowered her eyes and spoke huskily. "O Muni, my father can still see us, and I'm sure we must be visible to other people too, from both the banks. Why do you want me to feel humiliated? Wise people have ordained that night is the best time for lovemaking." The boat was now right next to the little island. Parashar sighed and once more took recourse to his special powers, creating a dense fog around the boat and the island. He came and sat down close to Matsyagandha, turned towards her, and said, "I don't know why I have become so enamored by you. I have seen innumerable beautiful women, including the Apsaras, but never once felt like this. There has to be some mysterious cause for my feeling like this. It's Providence at work." "Yes, but what of me?" whispered Matsyagandha, as Parashar's face came close to hers. "I will lose my virginity, and if I become pregnant, what will I tell my parents? What will my future life be like?" Parashar stopped and said, "O beloved, after we have made love, your virginity will be restored. Please ask me for any other boon you would like, and I will grant it." "O Muni," continued Matsyagandha, "then please grant me that my parents never come to know of this, and that a powerful, learned, and dynamic son like you be born to me." She paused before continuing. "Also, that my youthful beauty never withers, and this lovely musk fragrance never leaves my body." "Tathastu, so be it," said sage Parashar, "and our son will be renowned in the three worlds. He will compose the Purans and divide the Vedas." All her conditions accepted, Matsyagandha readily surrendered to Parashar's passion. Afterwards, he left, while she immediately gave birth to a beautiful, healthy child who became full grown right before her eyes and bowed to her with folded hands. "Mother," he said, "with your permission, I will now go and perform penance. But if you ever need me, you only have to think of me and I'll be by your side." So saying, Vyas, or Dvaipayan as he was also called, for having been born on a dweep or island, left to practice asceticisms and continue his learning. Later, he expanded the Vedas and thus came to be known as Ved Vyas. Subdividing the Vedas, he also composed the 18 Purans, the Samhitas, and the Mahabharata. Some of his disciples like Sumantu, Jaimini, Paila, Vaishampayan, Asit, Deval, and his own son Shuk were renowned for their learning and wisdom. I have now told you the story of Matsyagandha and the birth of Ved Vyas, said sage Suta to the gathered rishis. Matsyagandha came to be known as Satyavati and later married King Shantanu. Please don't judge harshly the nature of the birth of Ved Vyas. It was destiny at play, and there was a vital reason for Satyavati to be born of a fish, having the seemingly chance encounter with Parashar, and later marry a king. Otherwise, there was no reason at all why a supremely wise and learned ascetic like sage Parashar would suddenly behave like an ordinary mortal and commit such an act. O sinless Suta, said the rishis, you have told us in detail the story of Matsyagandha and the birth of Ved Vyas. But we are curious to know how it was that King Shantanu married a fisherman's daughter. Pray tell us how the events unfolded. Sage Suta smiled.